Jake here from ENVE Composites, and we're going to go over the installation of an ENVE compression plug and top cap. Your compression plug will come assemble, so the first thing you're going to need to do is disassemble it. You do this by removing this rubber plug, set that aside. You're going to need a 5mm, 6mm, and possibly a 4mm, depending on what stem you have to complete this installation. So we're going to take our 5mm and simply remove the bolt holding the top cap into the compression plug. We can leave the top cap there and we'll just set that aside. Now you're left with your compression assembly. This is held together with a big threaded bolt that goes through the middle, and this is a 6mm Allen head. So we're just going to take our 6mm to hold the bolt in place and break the threads free and remove the two wedges. So you have a lower wedge there, we'll set that aside. The knurled sleeve, which grips the steer tube and prevents it from slipping. And then you have your upper wedge and the compression bolt. Set those down. So what we're going to do is just briefly take some synthetic grease and grease the two threaded pieces. A little bit of grease for the top cap bolt and a little bit of grease for the compression bolt. I'll set those aside. And we're also going to apply a very thin film of grease to the actual wedge portion of the compression assembly. Just a light coat. So there's that lower piece, and then we're also going to do the top piece as well. And this is just to the angled portion of the wedge. Okay, now with everything greased, we're ready to reassemble the compression plug and install it in our bike. So I'm going to take the compression bolt and upper wedge, take our knurled sleeve. Make sure you don't get any grease on this sleeve, otherwise you may not get the compression and it may not hold in the steer tube how you want it to. Simply place that in between the wedges, take your lower wedge and just thread that together. Just kind of snug that up. So now we're going to test fit the compression plug in the steer tube. Most steer tubes are different inner diameters, and so they're not all going to fit the same, but we just want this to be a light press fit. So right now it just drops in, so we're a little too loose. We're going to take the 6mm and put it in the bolt head there and just turn it a couple turns, and that's going to expand this knurled sleeve and give us the fit that we need. All right, so that's about where you want it, just kind of a press fit. Snap it down into place, and from here you want to get some tension on the sleeve in the steer tube. So just take your 6mm, put some tension on it. Now this is where your torque wrench comes into play. You don't want to over tighten this piece. So I've had the torque wrench set to 8 Newton meters, and we're just going to get that right where we want it. And we're done with that portion of the assembly of the compression plug. From here, you're ready to reinstall your stem. And so we're going to take our stem, slide it down over the steer tube, and we can install our top cap now. Now you'll notice there's a beveled and angled lower portion of the top cap. In order to prevent this from interfering with the compression plug, we're going to need either a 5mm spacer or possibly larger to go between the top of the stem and the top cap. This will allow us to get the proper compression on the bearings of the headset. Take your 5mm and thread your top cap on. Now the purpose of your top cap is to compress the bearings of the headset and this whole stack assembly. You just want to get this tight enough so that you have no play in your bearings and you still have free movement of the steer tube. Okay. From here you align your stem. That looks good. We're going to swap out for a 4mm. Now ENVE stems call out a 5.5 Newton-meter torque spec on the bolts. So we're going to set our torque wrench, which was at 8, down to 5. And with the stem aligned, we're going to tighten our bolts. It's a good idea to alternate back and forth between the bolts so we have equal compression. Okay. And we're set there. From here you can take your rubber plug and place that back into the top cap, and you're ready to go ride your bike.